Welcome back to the Make Time for Success podcast. This is episode number 227. This is an amazing conversation with my friend and colleague, Rita Black. It's amazing because Rita is so amazing. She very openly shares lots of details about her history and her understanding of her past experiences and struggles with her weight and with smoking. We also get to hear the success story that she is because she overcame both of those struggles with the help of hypnosis and with her own awareness of the power she had within herself to create change. And we're going to talk in this episode about lots of different topics, including jet lag, because we both shared jet lag while recording this episode. But also we talked about procrastination, self-compassion, and the journey that people can take to move from feeling like they're struggling to feeling like they're more of an apprentice in their lives to a point where they feel like they are a master in their lives. Let's go listen to this episode together now. Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Lee, and I'm a psychologist and a procrastination coach. I've helped thousands of people move past procrastination and overwhelm so they could begin working to their potential. In this podcast, you're going to learn powerful strategies for getting your mind, body, and energy to work together so that you can focus on what's really important and accomplish the goals you want to achieve. When you start living within your full power, you're going to see how being productive can be easy and how you can create success on demand. Welcome to the Make Time for Success podcast. Hello, my friends. Again, it is Dr. Lee, and today I am rejoined by my amazing friend and my amazing colleague and mentor, Rita Black. I know that some of you know her very well. Our audiences really are friendly with each other. I think the people who tend to like my work tend to like Rita's work as well. And Rita has
one
been
big happy family, Christine.
Yes. We've crafted a big family. And Rita has indeed been on this podcast a couple times before. And she's always an amazing guest, authority, and teacher and describer of the human experience. And we thought together that we would just create another episode. And today we thought we would focus on the topic of starting things tomorrow and putting things off until tomorrow and promising ourselves that we're going to do things tomorrow. This was Rita's idea. I loved it. And I just want to say welcome to the show again, Rita.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. You know, Christine and I were joking about our mutual jet lag, and I'm getting over a double cold, which I never get sick. But anyway, so if you'll excuse my voice, I'm a little raspy, but I'm always happy to be here with you.
Thank you for being here with us. Rita is an expert in many things. She is a clinical hypnotist. She is a weight management expert, as well as a smoking cessation expert. And she's just devoted her career to helping people understand mindset, understand their habits, understand their predicaments that they might be caught in. And she's just such a loving way of working with people and understanding how people have gotten themselves into situations that might be complicated, that they might need support through. So Rita, can you give us, for those of you who are new to Rita, I would love Rita to kind of describe some of the background of how you got into the helping profession and the work that you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So like Christine said, I help people with weight and smoking because I struggled desperately with my weight for many years, up and down the scale, 40 pounds, and I was a pack and a half a day smoker. And for me, I lived in this horrible world. And this is why I wanted to talk about starting over again tomorrow is both with smoking and with weight management. I was always like, throwing a pack of cigarettes away and then buying another one, that night, throw them away in the morning, buy them at night. Oh, I'll stop on Monday, and the same thing with like going on a diet for 3 days or until the weekend. And it's like, oh, I'll start again tomorrow. And I lived in this world where I felt very powerless because I felt that impulse and I didn't feel like I could take ownership of change. So I did hypnosis originally to stop smoking, and I stopped in one session. And for me, after many, many, many years of smoking and trying to quit, and like I said, starting again, I left that session and I felt free. And it wasn't magic. It wasn't voodoo. It wasn't like it was a spell that was put on me. I could actually feel my own mind making the change. So it wasn't like the hypnotherapist did it to me. It's like I came really wanting to stop smoking, which is a prerequisite, by the way. You can't make somebody quit smoking if they don't want to. But I really, truly wanted the change. And hypnosis allowed my subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind really resists change, allowed my subconscious mind to be open to those suggestions that I could be a non-smoker and let it go. So after that experience and I was thrilled with the fact that I was finally free of this, what I called my part-time job, because I was always standing outside smoking a cigarette. And at one, Christina, it's so funny. I figured out at one point, because you think about the cost of cigarettes. The cost of cigarettes when I quit they were like $5, $6, because I quit, 30 years ago, over 30 years ago now. I mean, and now they're $15, but they were $5 a pack. So, you add that up, plus you add the time. So I was thinking like, even if I was like making $20 an hour, 25, I was thinking like, that's $40,000 a year. It adds up really, really fast. Your time does, and I know you talk a lot about time and you think about what the value of your time is. My daughter is reading this book. I think it's called, maybe you've heard of it. It's called like 4,400 weeks or something. It's about like how many weeks you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the book. Yeah. I started it. I couldn't finish it, but I did start it. It wasn't a book that I preferred, but
yeah. My daughter said, "You're not going to like the book, Mom, because it's about relaxing and taking it easy." And, because I love what I do and I'm always working. And she's like, "I don't think I want you to read this book." I was like, okay. Anyway, I'm not going to read this book yet. But yeah, when we think of our time and we think of the value of our time. So anyway, after I became a non-smoker, I was like, wow, maybe if I kind of figured it out. I was like, I knew everything about like dieting. I knew how to lose weight. I knew how to exercise. I knew all of those things, which most people who struggle with their weight are experts. They know how to feed themselves. They know how to lose 10 pounds, but it's that consistency piece. And I realized, oh, well, maybe there's something going on subconsciously that's really resisting the change. And so I started using hypnosis as a way to start to create a new way of communicating with myself, to work with with habits and beliefs that were kind of keeping me struggling, which I think we really don't think a lot about. We're really usually we're struggling with our weight. We're externally focused. We're externally focused on finding the next solution that's outside of us because we don't believe in ourselves enough because we think we're a failure. So the truth is, and I know you know this, Christine, because this is really what you do too, is like the change work, even though you're cleaning your desk, the change is happening in you. It's not, getting your desk sparkling clean, although that is a benefit. And the same thing with releasing weight is like, it's the change you make within yourself and the way you communicate with yourself that creates the long-term lasting change. So yeah, that's how I'm here today. I've been working and doing what I do. I released 40 pounds and I've kept those off for 30 years. I'm 60 years old. I feel better today than I did when I was 25. And desperately struggling with my weight physically, well, except for having this cold, but, mentally, emotionally, I mean, everybody's like, oh my gosh, so great that you are at your ideal weight. And I was like, yeah, the weight part is good. Absolutely never would ever deny that. But it's really that relationship that I had to develop with myself. But once you say, like, in order to keep the weight off, and it's so fulfilling, right? Like, it's so amazing. And what you say for yourself in your world of procrastination and time management, energy management.
Yeah. For those of you who are not watching us on video, if you're not on YouTube right now, I just put my hand on my chest, on my heart, because the way Rita is talking and sharing so personally her experience, I really resonate that the external benefits of knowing how to use your time, knowing how to make decisions, knowing how to trust yourself are all great, but nothing really quite compares with how this whole opening up process and the feeling of trusting yourself and being able to rely on yourself feels. It really is a dramatic shift from that experience that you so powerfully described as not allowing yourself to feel like you could change anything. It's a world of difference, and it's massive. And I love how you bridged the smoking story to the weight story, that you kind of borrowed that awareness that you had that power within yourself to create new patterns of behavior and new attitudes and new realities for yourself with food and weight, which is amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very powerful.
I mean, I think every transformation starts with an identity shift, right? And, for years, and this is what I see with everybody who struggles with their weight, they see themselves as a weight struggler. And we get kind of stuck in that world. It's a real world we create. And it's very self-punishing and self-abusive and self-sabotaging. And we blame ourselves. We see ourselves as the victim and the abuser. And, we play all those roles. But it's like when I became a non-smoker, I kind of, because that is such a black and white, like I'm not, when people, I have this LA practice that, now that I've really moved online, mostly but I still love seeing people. So I'll see people once a week, and I saw some smokers this weekend, and this guy came in on Saturday morning, and he was like petrified about stopping smoking. But he's like, I really, really want to. I really, really want to, but I just don't see how I'm going to be able to do this. Like, I hang out with smokers, we smoke, that's who we are. And I was like, yeah, I totally understand. But, like, think about when you went to, you were just in Portugal. I just went to Spain, and you step off the plane, and you're a tourist, but you step into this identity of like, oh, I'm in Spain, and I'm in it. And it's like this, and it's a different world. It's like a different paradigm. Your brain kind of steps into it. I mean, that's different. But like, I use the analogy of getting married, right? Like, 1 second you're a single person, and then you say, I do. And then you're a married person, and you step into that identity, and now you're married. And in that second, you see the world differently. You act differently. Your commitments are different. Or when you have a child, or when you were talking about your PhD program, when you step in and you say, okay, I'm going to get my PhD, or you get your hood, that's huge. And you can do that. The brain will go there really fast. It will shift identities. And so smoker to non-smoker, smoker to non-smoker is such a fast change, black and white, so it's powerful. And the shift from what I call weight struggler to weight, like, I like to use an idea of an apprentice where you're in a learning mode, because I think long-term permanent weight mastery is really a learning journey. But it's not as like, people are like, so you can help somebody stop smoking in one session. What about weight? And I was like, well, it's so much more layered. I mean, we start eating the second we're born. Nobody puts a cigarette in your mouth and lights it up, the second you're born. So we usually smoke. I mean, look, I've worked with smokers who have smoked for 60 years, but, we usually our emotional layering with food, our habitual layering with food and exercise, and even especially, Christine, I know you're younger than me, but as women growing up in a certain time, we learned to put our worth on our weight. Like it became a part of how we value ourselves.
Well, certainly that was part of the social messaging.
Yes.
Absolutely. Very powerfully. So,
Yeah.
yes.
And I don't know if your mom gave you any messaging or your dad, my dad didn't, but my mom gave me, and my mom struggled with her weight. So
I would say that that was not part of my history, but
that's
that
good.
doesn't mean that my history was free from food conflict, because I actually had later on in life a gluten sensitivity, which was just a perhaps antibiotics cause, but it triggered a lot of different layers that hadn't been there before. I think in terms of having food be very complicated, having concerns about what the food was doing to my body, all of a sudden having all this heightened awareness of what was happening with food, how I was feeling, what was okay, not okay. And I had not been used to being overly sensitive or concerned about these things. I think I was fortunate in that way early on. But I think I also, have a greater appreciation of like what food and a healthy relationship with eating and being able to have that for yourself, how gigantic a factor that is in a person's overall well-being, right? Because if you've got struggle, right? Whether it's a cigarette or with Twizzlers or it's something
or
where
the mess on your desk,
or the mess on your desk, or with time, that it's some place where you're divided, where you're feeling more vulnerable. Sometimes when you're feeling like things could get worse, it's just making things more precarious, I think. And I think what we were talking about a couple minutes ago was the counter situation where you're feeling almost basically unstoppable, where you're feeling like you are the authority and you are the regulator and you are the decision maker and you make good decisions for yourself, not based on any patterns of abuse or violation or boundary breaking or trust breaking. And I think that's, again, huge. We're talking about really giant principles in human behavior and being human. And we're acting it out all over the place with our desk, with our food, with how we regulate or don't regulate ourselves. So thank you for talking about these issues in such a rich and layered way. Can we talk about the issue of that cycle that you were telling me about before we pressed record, about, the tomorrow factor, right? You start
over tomorrow.
Yeah. Perhaps the cycle starts with the thought, let's just fix this tomorrow, or let's just do the thing we intend to do tomorrow. Can you describe that cycle?
Yeah. I think when I started in weight management, over 20 years ago with hypnotherapy and even with myself, I don't even think I recognized the cycle as a cycle. Like I thought it was something I did. I didn't see it as something that almost everybody does, which is more of a epidemic of, I think the cycle is, we get to a point where we feel bad in our body, we overeat, or we, gain some weight, our pants don't fit, or, whatever. We make this decision. Okay, I'm going to go on a diet, or not. I know diets are like bad words now. So, but I'm going to like fast, or I'm going to do keto, or I'm going to do something, take action. And we take action. And, most people, like I said, who struggle with their weight, they know how to take action. They can take action. And I think that impetus to go on the diet is more to control the pain and the chaos than it is to actually go on a journey of self-realization and transformation. It's usually out of a pain and we want to get out of the pain. And, I'm fat. Oh, I feel, the summer's coming. Oh, like all the whatever the emotional impetus is, we'll hop on it because we're very good at that. And we're good at starting that process. And it feels good to feel good, right? Like, I'm being good. Like being good is like a little high. It's a dopamine state. It's like we see ourselves and like I'm in control and it feels good. But the problem is then because we're in this good place, we eat something or go away for the weekend or get a little sloppy with stuff. And then that other part of our brain is like, bad. This is bad. So we only know good. We only know bad. We don't know the in-between world, the gray world very well. We don't operate in those worlds very well. I mean, just in this kind of, so when we get into that bad place, that part of our brain starts the negative self-speak, right? And I like to call it the inner critic, but whatever it is, it's like you blew it. You were doing so good. And now you're so bad, right? In whatever way that plays out for you or for us. And then what happens, Christine, when we start that negative self-speak, we feel crappy, right? We feel like, oh, I don't like this feeling. It feels bad. We feel guilty. We feel shame. We feel like, oh, we blew it. Oh, I'm back here again. Disappointment, shame, all that stuff comes flooding in. So we do something very clever. We do something very clever, right? We want to survive this. We want to get out of this pain. So there's this other part of our brain, what I like to call the inner rebel, but you could call it the survival tactic or whatever. It's like, well, we'll just be good tomorrow. Like you blew it already. So you might as well just start over tomorrow and you'll be really good tomorrow. And all of a sudden, guess what? Magically, all the self-shame and it lifts and we get relief. And what a magical moment, right? Like it, and guess what happens? Not only do we say, hey kid, you're okay. You're going to be good tomorrow. Because, like there's that promise for future action. So to the degree you're going to be good, you're not just going to be good. You're not just going to pull it together. You're going to be really, really, really good. You know what I mean? Like I remember times when I was struggling with my weight, I was like, I am not going to eat sugar for a year. I am not going to like I am getting, and I would literally throw, it was like the cigarettes. I would throw all the crappy food out of my house. I would get everything. You're going to be good. But how I usually threw the crappy food out of my house was I didn't put it in the trash. I put it in my mouth. So because I made the promise to be good, that gives me permission to be as bad as I wanted to, over eat and, binge, whatever, however you want to say it, like to the point, like you're not even, tasting the food. It's just like, let me get this in because I'm going to be so good tomorrow. But, so that I can be bad now. And then, we wake up tomorrow and it's like, it's Saturday. I'm not going to be good. I'll be good on Monday, so we gain back the weight and then we're back at the same place. And then we're going to go on the next thing because we're in pain again. And so it plays out. But, Christine, I know I just described something with food, but doesn't the same thing happen with procrastination? You procrastinate and then you're saying, I remember this with I was such a procrastinator in high school and college too, to the point where, I would be up at 3 a.m. I'm sure you were too.
Yeah.
Cramming it all in for the next day. I
Yes.
managed to get some good grades, but oh my gosh, the pain I put myself through because I was like, I will do it tomorrow. I will write that report tomorrow. It's going to be great. And I'm going to be in the mood to do it tomorrow, but I will,
Well, I think you and I have never, as long as we've known each other and as much as we've spoken about these topics, we've never spoken about our experiences with early procrastination and time loss. And I think when I think about that part of my life, there was so much time loss. It was almost like you're in a dissociated state, that you're
Mm.
not really connected with the fact that time is passing, and that there might have been many possibilities for doing things in an alternative or alternate kind of way. Anything could have made things simpler or gotten us a little bit more sleep. And yet we were in there. It's like you're on a boat ride and you're really far from the shore. And that feeling, and you just brought that right back. And the stories that you just told of the cycle of how we're talking to ourselves, really trying to comfort ourselves from with inside the distress as the distress is mounting. I've certainly been in those situations many, many times before, about food, about time, about sleep, you know. Can you now talk about the way to heal that system and what is required to make that pivot, I would say, or I would ask?
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's an identity piece. First of all, I think often when we go on that diet to get out of the pain, we still think of ourselves as a struggler. And I think our belief, like if we asked our internal belief system, like, how much do you really think that this diet is going to be successful? There would be a very low percentage of like, this is really going to be successful, because it isn't really, I don't know what you would call it. Like it's an impulse. It's a like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I got to get out of the pain. And so it's not a long term. I'm not thinking long term. I'm thinking just manage this feeling.
You're saying that the belief is low.
The belief in yourself is low. So I always like to start with like I said, the identity. So that's why I like when we think of ourselves as like an apprentice of weight mastery, because I really believe that weight management is a skills set. It's not being good on something, right? Like it's you develop yourself. And, I studied long-term permanent weight management, like studies. What were the ways people were thinking, but really what were they doing, being in order to manage weight? And most people who have had long-term success, reached what I would call a turning point where they were like, I'm letting all of that, like the franticness go, and I am going to invest in myself. Like I'm going to invest in myself in a different way. I'm not, buying a spa diet. I'm not that's not what I mean investing. I mean, like, I'm going to believe in myself, and I'm going to believe like I can do this, right? I might not have all the answers right now, but I do know one thing is like, this is, and from psychological terms, you would shift from external locus of control to internal locus of control. Like you are the one, like they're saying, I'm going to be the boss now. The diet outside of me is not going to be the boss, right? Like I'm going to figure this out for me. And this is what happened for myself. I said, I'm not going to diet anymore. I've got to figure this out from the inside out. And so I made that decision, and in that developed what I would consider an identity where I was willing to be a learner, where I was willing to make a mistake, right? Like, and I'm sure I know from the work you do, it's like, we can't be perfectionists about it. And like the perfectionism is killing us, right? So we have to give up the being good, right? Like, which as much of a high as it isn't, a lot of progress does not look pretty, right? So it's like trial and error. But the difference between me eating a cupcake as a learner and me eating a cupcake as a weight struggler is like, I eat the cupcake, I blew it. I don't learn anything about that moment with myself. Like I don't learn like, oh, I went without food for too long, and then I was in the situation where there was a cupcake and I ate it. And, like I didn't learn like, oh, okay, so the next time maybe I'll be in the situation, I'll come into that situation a little differently, and I'll prepare a little better, and I'll make boundaries around certain foods, or, whatever it is, because we're all amazing, like problem solvers and strategists when we allow ourselves to be. And so when you come from a learner's standpoint, it gives you a lot of forgiveness about, because then you go from emotional thinking, like I blew it, I'm bad, to, oh, wow, look at what happened. That's interesting. if I'm a learner, I'm curious about this and I'm going to learn something about this, right? So, and there is forgiveness included and compassion included in that too. And I think that that's an important piece. And I know, Christine, you're the queen of compassion. So, it's like, people, it's so interesting to me. And maybe you have this with your work as well when you work with people, Christine, that we're so resistant to forgive and have compassion for ourselves when we make a mistake or we fall, because we think, like, especially in the world of weight struggle, people really think if I'm going to be compassionate with myself, I'm going to eat even more. Like, if I'm going to be like, like I'm going to just be out of control and crazy, but it's so not true. Because when you start really respecting yourself and showing up for yourself with that more nurturing side of you, you start advocating for yourself and against that critical voice. So this part of the healing journey, I guess, you asked me, how do we start to heal this? As I think we come to the situation as a different person. We've changed our identity. And that can happen in a second when you start. And, like in the shift weight mastery process, which is my weight management process, and it has hypnosis and all that stuff too, which really works with, mindset, habits, beliefs. But one of the things we do is we have people sign an apprentice contract. Like they literally have to become an apprentice. So, and I think these kinds of little rituals also really help us redefine things, right? But then I also think that inner communication, that curiosity. I have a podcast. It's called Thin Thinking Podcast. And I just recently did a podcast called Curiosity Killed the Fat. And I mean, like, I do think that the curiosity piece of it, whenever somebody's struggling, like in my membership or my gut, I'm like, let's get curious. Let's not get critical. And the moment they do that, they turn from their emotional brain into their rational brain, where they have all the power, where they have all the resources, right? So I think it's turning from that critic into the coach, self-coaching. I think it's identity. And I also think shifting from short-term, this short-term, like, let me get the fat off of me. Let me diet as quickly as I can. Let me, we're so, I got to get it off as fast as possible so I can love myself, right? Because we don't accept ourselves as we are, to loving ourselves down the scale. So really seeing like, oh, okay, I'm going to show up for myself. I'm going to go on this journey. I might not lose the weight super fast, or I may, but the most important part is that the journey isn't just about weight. It's about learning, like, here's me 40 pounds above the scale, or where, above where I want to be. Here's me where, I want to be, like 40 pounds down the scale. That me is going to be different. And I'm not going to be perfect, but she's going to make different food decisions. She's going to probably get up and exercise every day. So let me get curious about that part of me and let me start to cultivate that part of me. It was really funny, Christine. I have a before picture of me. I don't have a lot of them because I destroyed every single one of my fat pictures, except for this one that my friend had of me when we went to Spain 40 years ago. And we went to Tossa del Mar, where ironically we ended up going this time, although it was raining most of the time. And I looked at the picture and I texted my friend. I said, hey, I'm going to Spain. Where was that beach that we went to that, I knew I had taken that picture? And she was like, that was Tossa del Mar. I was like, really? Because I have such a bad memory. I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, you're kidding me, because I'm going there like today. So I had my daughter take some pictures of me in the same spot on the beach, 40 pounds less than I was in that picture at 40 years older as well. But it was so cool. I was just like, wow, the me I became in that journey, it's so crazy because I was so miserable. Like the picture, if you see this picture of me, my before picture, I'm just like, I'm on this beautiful beach. I'm young. I actually, if you look back, you're like, well, you're not skinny, but oh God, why were you so hard on yourself? So I was just like, I looked at myself. I was like, God, why were you so hard? I mean, I know so many of the women I work with, they're like, why was I look back at pictures of myself and I thought I was fat and I was beautiful. Why wouldn't I do that? Anyway, it felt so full circle going back to
Very,
that place.
very, very. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
As you were talking, I thought of something that I tend to think around the self-abusive part of the
Mhm.
cycle and feeling caught up in that and always resorting to that. And I have come to feel that for some people, it's something that we feel comfortable being in, this kind of affinity or this coherence of, well, I may feel really crappy about what I did, but that kind of feels like how I feel about myself anyway. So, what is there to fix? There's a little bit of this must be normal me. This must be
Yeah,
my
you're right.
identity because it feels so familiar. This sadness about myself or this distrust or this negative feeling about myself is so familiar that who am I to think that I could be someone who could love themselves and feel safe in that identity? It feels so far away, feels
Mhm.
so not safe, right? It doesn't feel safe to imagine yourself being a totally different person sometimes. Although when you describe it, it sounds great, right? Loving yourself down the scale and thinking, oh, how is it going to feel when I make these changes? It really helps to have that feeling of self-love at the beginning. And
Mhm.
as I was thinking that thought, I also thought this is the value of having a coach because
Oh, yeah.
the coaching gets you through that part that feels like it doesn't make sense or it's impossible or it never worked before or I don't have what it takes inside of me. Your coach is that bridge, that literal
Mhm.
and proverbial bridge to help you see yourself to the point that you believe in your heart of hearts is a possibility for you. And that's a beautiful thing too, right? Not
Yeah.
only is the person's ability to open themselves up to change beautiful, but the connection and the trust and the new experience of having someone guide you in a safe way is also a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think it's that modeling of behavior. I think, with smokers, I use this idea of like we live in this world, and with weight strugglers too. It's like we live in this world of smoking, or we live in this world of weight struggle, and it's painful, it's frustrating, but it's familiar. And when we leave the house of abuse, because it's like the house of abuse, and if you have nowhere else to go, you're going to go back to that house of abuse because that's what feels familiar, right? So I try to use this idea of building a new house, like creating a new foundation built on your power, right? Like, and that power is based in your new identity. And I agree with you that having a coach and developing your own internal inner coach, but a lot of times, yeah, you need that coach who's going to start to give you that inner voice. Like, I remember having an amazing therapist who, like in the beginning, I couldn't model new inner speak to myself, but I just used her voice, right? And I say to my clients or my students, I'll say, think of somebody who is like a superhero or a aunt or a therapist or somebody whose voice, is soothing, who speaks and that you can borrow their voice until you develop your own. And I do think that it's so helpful for people to have that bridge of and somebody who is showing them self-advocacy, self-soothing, and that it's okay, and that they can do it. They can get there. Yeah, because when you don't, a lot of times I say, and I know you do too, Christine, it's just like you kind of hold the space. You hold the space until they get the space and then they've got it. But, you're a coach. You don't want to, you want to make yourself redundant. Ultimately, you don't want people to but you want to give them their own wings to fly. So
I think that
yeah,
as coaches, we come kind of pre-baked, if that's the word. Again, the jet lag, pre-baked with the belief in the client's ability
yes,
to be their full selves and their full well selves. And I think that's just like that's the contract. That's the setup that works, right? And there's that
right.
kind of
Well, because
power.
you were where they were, and you can hold that space, right? You've been on that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I could do any other journey other than smoking or weight, like, cause those were my journey. I mean, people in the beginning of my career, I'd get calls, oh, you helped my uncle quit smoking. Can you help me with this phobia? I was like, I don't really do that. I'm smoking and weight. Those are what I know. I haven't been on a snake fear journey. I had a very big celebrity want me to cure her of her fear of bees. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. I haven't been there with bees as much as I would like to.
I think you mentioned rose bushes in your garden once. Did I
Yeah,
get out people in
yeah. I'm
that?
used to bees. I'm used to be. I in fact, I like bees because they do pollinate, and I have friends who are beekeepers. Oh, the bees are so. We could have a whole
They're
podcast on
amazing.
bees.
I'm
They are
fully
amazing.
with you on the bee.
But yeah,
I want to just share with our audience that I feel like they have just heard a master teacher. So thank you
thank you.
for just being yourself and using all your history and wisdom and all the inspiration that you have from your work and from what you
Aw.
know and what you've seen in the people that you work with too and help. So thank you for showing what that can feel like and what that can be like and the promise of change, of allowing yourself to see yourself as someone who can do really powerful, dramatic, substantial, and consistent, long lasting change. Very, very powerful. And it came across really clearly tonight.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Christine. And thank you for having our podcast. I know it's late for you, so I
Oh, yeah.
appreciate that, especially
Different
with our
time
jet lag.
zones. We're jet lagged. So, what is time anyway? Oh,
We're very relaxed.
we're so chill right now. Thinking about Europe and beautiful beaches. So let's shift now to what you've got coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yes. Next, well, yeah, it will be, as this drops, a week away. I am hosting a series of live masterclasses over a 4-day period, really based on a couple of things, based on somewhat of what we talked about, like really breaking the subconscious barriers that keep us struggling with weight. I usually have a little sign behind me that says 12%, 88%, 12% of our mind wants the change, 88% wants to resist the change, the subconscious mind. So we really look at how to leverage your subconscious mind to make changes, so that you can leave the masterclass with an action plan. And we also do some weight hypnosis, which I really love. So you get to sample hypnosis if you're curious about it. If you're, you know, saw the creepy guy in the polyester suit with the mustache, you can experience it in a safe environment with lots of other people who want the same sort of transformation. So yeah, please come. I want to say it's 75 minutes long, until we do the hypnosis, and then we talk a little bit afterwards, but the bulk of it is about 75 minutes.
All right, terrific. So you're offering it the same masterclass 4 different times. Is that correct?
8 classes actually I'm doing. I'm going for it this time.
Okay.
Like I because everybody is always like, that's a bad time for me. I'm in Australia. That's a bad time. So I said, okay, everybody, I'm going to make everybody happy. I'm going to do, so there's 2 master classes a day over a 4-day period, and I've staggered the times, hopefully to please everybody. And I'm kind of doing some new stuff in this. And so I'm just like playing around with it. And so come and play with me. And I promise you it's fun and we have a good time, and you're going to learn a lot about how to use your mind more impactfully to manage your weight long term.
Okay, terrific. So join any of these 8 classes and you'll meet up with Rita again live. And I have a link for you so that you can get all the information for how to sign up and what's involved, including the light hypnosis. And that link is maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/hypnosis. Again, it's maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/hypnosis. And of course, I'll have that in the show notes for you all. I have been a student of Rita's program. I can say I learned so much. There is so much material that is just so useful. There's nothing excessive about the material. It is just so well done. It is intelligent. It taught me all the things I didn't know about that I now know. And that does help me to be more aware of what I'm doing when I'm preparing food, when I'm thinking about food, when I'm shopping for food, and how I take care of myself. So I'm a big advocate of everything that Rita has put into this program and into this work. So thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Christine, for having me on.
It was really fun and just a wonderful experience talking with you tonight. And I encourage anyone who just connected with what Rita was saying, what we've been talking about tonight. If you're interested in just experiencing a new part of your potential to just be fully you, go to one of Rita's masterclasses, review this podcast if you need to, listen to Rita's podcast as well. That's a wonderful resource, which has lots of guests, including me, and lots of information for you to learn from going forward. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you, Christine, for having me on, and take care, everybody. Have a good day.
Okay. And we are both going to go rest from our jet lag.
Yeah. Get better.
All right. Take care, everyone. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make Time for Success podcast. If you enjoyed what you've heard, you can subscribe to make sure you get notified of upcoming episodes. You can also visit our website, maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com, for past episodes, show notes, and all the resources we mention on the show. Feel free to connect with me over on Instagram too. You can find me there under the name Procrastination Coach. Send me a DM and let me know what your thoughts are about the episodes you've been listening to. And let me know any topics that you might like me to talk about on the show. I'd love to hear all about how you're making time for success. Talk to you soon.